Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my first missing person video, and we're going to be talking about the mysterious disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi. Now this case is really interesting for me because I actually live in Italy. This is the most famous cold case in the whole country. What makes this case so crazy and so intriguing isn't even necessarily the facts or the circumstances, it's one of the theories. Even in spite of the fact the theory is so bonkers, it is actually very probable, so watch to the end. So Emanuela Orlandi was a 15-year-old Italian girl who went missing in 1983. She was the daughter of Ercole Orlandi and Maria Pezzano. Her father actually worked for the Catholic Church. He worked for the Vatican Bank, handling their finances and whatnot. And the family, because of his job, actually lived in the Vatican. For those of you who do not know, the Catholic Church basically has its own country. So the Vatican is not part of Italy. It is an independent state, and the Catholic Church can basically do whatever they want there and not get in any trouble. That comes in important for one of the theories later. Emanuela was the fourth of 5 children. She and her siblings pretty much had free range of the Vatican as they were growing up. They often played in the Vatican gardens, which are off limits to the general public, and in certain courtyards and churches which the general public cannot access. In an interview, Emanuela's older brother Pietro said that they had always felt safe growing up in the Vatican. They never felt like they had to look over their shoulders or be wary about anything. In the summer of 1983, Emanuela had just finished her second year of Liceo Scientifico, which is a science high school. She was taking flute lessons in Rome. Normally, she would travel by bus toward the music school and then get off and walk 200 meters, which is about 650 feet. On Wednesday, June 22nd, Emanuela was late to class. Later that day, Emanuela spoke on the phone with one of her sisters and explained that she had been late that day because a man stopped her as she was walking to the school and approached her about becoming a representative for Avon Cosmetics, and he basically wanted her to sell their products. The sister did not think it was weird, but she thought that it would be best if Emanuela spoke over it with her parents before deciding on working for Avon. After she got off the phone with her sister, she walked with one of her friends to the bus stop and mentioned to her friend her job offer. Her friend then actually left the bus stop to go home and left her there with another girl who neither of them knew. That girl reported seeing Emanuela get into a large, dark-colored BMW. That was the last that anybody saw of Emanuela. When Emanuela had failed to return home by the next morning, her parents contacted the Rome City Police, but the police suggested that they wait because they thought she could just be with friends. Her parents called the director of the music school later that day and asked them to ask Emanuela's classmates if they knew anything, but none of them did. She was officially declared a missing person that same day. Over the next 2 days, 3 missing persons announcements were put into different Italian newspapers across the country. The next day at 6 p.m., the police received a call from a 16-year-old Italian boy calling himself Pierluigi. He said that he and his girlfriend had actually met the missing girl in Piazza Navona in Rome, which is not too far from the Vatican. Pierluigi mentioned Emanuela's flute, which was not a detail that had been made public at that time. And he did mention other details which did fit Emanuela. Pierluigi claimed that Emanuela introduced herself to him and his girlfriend as Barbarella, that she had just had a haircut, and claimed that she had just run away from home and was selling Avon cosmetic products. And that was also not made known to the public, that a man had approached her asking her to sell these products. 4 days later, on June 28th, a man who called himself Mario called the family and said that he was the owner of a bar near Ponte Vittorio, which is between the Vatican and the music school. Mario said that he had a new customer, a girl named Barbara, who had confided in him that she had run away from home and that she was selling cosmetics products, but that she wanted to return home for her sister's wedding. On June 30th, 3,000 missing persons posters were put around the city of Rome. On Sunday, July 3rd, then Pope John Paul II asked for those responsible for Emanuela's disappearance to return her. What is interesting is that in none of the publications or the missing persons posters was it suggested that she may have been kidnapped. As far as people knew, she just disappeared or ran away. So it's odd that he would be talking like that. And it happens often that when someone someone knows someone has been kidnapped, they slip up and say something like that. 2 days later, the Orlandi family received the first of many anonymous phone calls. The first person claimed that Emanuela was a prisoner of a terrorist group which was demanding the release of Mehmet Ali Aka, who was a Turkish man who attempted to assassinate Pope John Paul II in 1981, but failed. The person on the phone did not give the family any other details. The family then received another phone call from a man speaking with an American accent, played a recording of Emanuela's voice. A few hours later, the man with the American accent phoned the Vatican and proposed an exchange with Emanuela for Mehmet. The anonymous American man mentioned Mario, the bar owner, and Pierluigi, the 16-year-old boy who had called the police. He said that they were both members of the organization. On July 6, another man with an American accent and a quote-unquote young-sounding voice informed the ANSA news agency, which is a large news network here in Italy, of the desire for an exchange between Emanuela and Mehmet, and that they wanted the Pope's participation in the exchange within the next 20 days or the deal was off. They said that a basket containing proof that they did in fact have Emanuela would be left in public in front of the Italian parliament. The person on the phone said that they would put photocopies of her school ID, a handwritten note from her, and photos. The police officer in charge of the case at the time did not feel like these claims were credible enough and did not request that the basket was left at the Parliament building. On July 8th, a man with a Middle Eastern accent called one of Emanuela's classmates and said that she was being held by him and that they had 20 days to make an exchange with Mehmet. The man then contacted the then Italian Secretary of State, Agostino Casaroli, asked to have a direct phone line set up between him and Casaroli. He agreed, and a phone line was installed on the 18th of July. He wound up making a total of 16 phone calls with the other guy who had the American accent, and the police determined that the American man was making the phone calls from different public telephone booths. No exchange between Emanuela and Mehmet ever materialized as a result of these communications. And eventually all communications between the Italian police and this terrorist group, who hadn't even given themselves a name, ceased. Ever since then, it has been a cold case. So let's get into some of the theories regarding what may have happened to Emanuela. So there are generally three main theories of what might have happened to her. The first, of course, is that she was kidnapped by a terrorist organization to facilitate the release of Mehmet Ali Aka. Years after Emanuela disappeared, Mehmet stated in a prison interview that she was kidnapped by members of the Grey Wolves, which is a Turkish ultra-nationalist, neo-fascist terrorist organization of which Aka was a member. Mehmet said during the interview with Italy's RAI state television that Emanuela was alive, not in danger, and was living as a nun in a cloistered convent, though he did say he denied absolute knowledge of her fate and said that he had come to some logical conclusions based on what he knew. But with no evidence to support these claims, the Italian police stopped investigating them, and they no longer believe that Emanuela was kidnapped by the Grey Wolves or any other terrorist organization to facilitate an exchange, which seems very strange to me because the phone calls received when she had just disappeared, the people knew things about her that hadn't yet been made public, such as the fact that she had a flute and was selling products for Avon Cosmetics. The next theory is the organized crime theory, and that is that Emanuela was kidnapped by members of the Banda della Magliana, which is an Italian organized crime association, in order to force the restitution of large sums of money that they had given to the Vatican. The Vatican is into some shady organized crime stuff as well. In 2012, the Italian police exhumed the corpse of Enrico De Padis, who was a member of the Banda della Magliana, because his ex-girlfriend said that he had admitted to her that he kidnapped Emanuela. The Italian police had also received an anonymous tip that he was guilty. They wanted to take samples of his DNA to be used in the future if Emanuela's remains were ever found, to see if there was any of his DNA on the body. The police exhumed the corpse and took a sample of his DNA, but there was no evidence found in the tomb to link him to Emanuela's disappearance. And last, but most arguably the most insane and fascinating theory, is that she was kidnapped by members of the Vatican police on behalf of high-ranking clergymen in the Catholic Church to be used for an orgy. So back in 2012, the then 85-year-old exorcist Gabriele Amor, who had performed tens of of thousands of exorcisms in his over 60 years as a priest, claimed that Emanuela had been kidnapped and that he knew that she was used for a sex party and was then murdered and buried in the Vatican. Now I know what you're thinking, that's insane, but this is actually not the first time people have claimed that there was a sex party at the Vatican, and in fact it seems every few years there's something crazy going on there. Just in 2017, the Vatican police busted into a drug-fueled sex party among high-ranking cardinals. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on down at the Vatican. Just as recently as a year ago, the Vatican acted on an anonymous tip and opened 2 tombs in the Vatican that were purported to possibly be the resting place of Emanuela.
The last clue about her possible whereabouts led them here, to the Vatican's Teutonic Cemetery. They received an anonymous message that the girl's remains were in one of the tombs. The Holy See agreed to have its contents examined, but the investigation took longer than expected. They found nothing inside the tombs. So the researchers set to work again. The Vatican had to examine the archives of the Teutonic Cemetery. Subsequently, they discovered that the remains of the tombs had been moved about 50 years ago to the building that had been built next to the cemetery.
However, they did not find any of the remains there. The case is still unsolved and nobody knows what happened to Emanuela Orlandi. That is it for this video. If you liked this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I have playlists linked in the description. I have a true crime playlist, I have a conspiracy theory playlist, and I have a paranormal playlist, and I'm now creating a missing person playlist because I do want to make more content like this in the future. So if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, share it, share the channel, and if you want to see more missing persons videos from me, leave me suggestions in the comments of what cases I should cover next. I really want to do the Elisa Lam case, so I think that might be my next missing person video. So come back next week if you want to see the video about Elisa Lam. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time.